Hello everyone, my name is Mr. Barduska and this is my educational video about my understanding on meteorology. Meteorology is the study of meteors, which is the Greek word for things in the air. These things include phenomena that are bound by the atmosphere, temperature, air pressure, water vapor, as well as how they all interact and change over time, which we collectively call as weather. Not only does meteorology look at how the atmosphere behaves, it also deals with the chemistry of the atmosphere, the gases and particles in it, the physics of the atmosphere, its fluid motion and the forces that act upon it, and weather forecasting. Meteorology is a physical science, a branch of natural science that tries to explain and predict nature's behavior based on empirical evidence or observation. A person who studies or practices meteorology professionally is known as a meteorologist. Let us now discuss the history and development of meteorology. Well, the first written references to weather can be traced back to about 3000 BC in a book of Vedic scriptures called Upanishad. This book makes references to things like how clouds form and certain types of seasonal weather cycles. About 3000 years later, a Greek by the name of Theos became the first person to create a weather forecast. It was for the crop harvest, but it was based on his observations of the water cycle, which is fundamental process in meteorology. In 350 BC, Aristotle wrote in his thesis called Meteorologica. It didn't specifically deal with weather, but more broadly with his theories about earth science. During the Middle Ages, a lot of people from the region we now know as the Middle East wrote about their understanding of the different types of weather, things like thunder, rain, clouds, snow, and even rainbows. They also begin the first attempts at understanding how to predict the weather, mainly based on the lunar phases, constellations, and of course the sun. The first weather observation wouldn't be invented until 1441. That was when a son of a Korean king came up with the first standardized rain gauge. About 50 years later, Christopher Columbus became the first European to record his experience of a hurricane. In 1607, Galileo invented one of the most important weather instruments that we use today, which is the thermometer. During the 17th century, more instruments aimed at observing the weather are invented. In the 18th century, the records of those observations are used to come up with the principles that govern weather patterns. In the 19th century, efforts were made to create observational networks. In the United States, the U.S. Weather Bureau was created in 1890. We now know that bureau as the National Weather Service. But believe it or not, our greatest strides in the meteorology did not occur until the computer was invented. This allows scientists to input their observations, combine them with the laws and principles of nature and physics, and reliably extrapolate what may happen. And just like that, you've got weather forecasting. The United States has invented an important new generations of observing systems, including the WSR-88D radar network, 3-axis stabilized GOES, and microwave sensors in low Earth orbit. Active satellite sensors such as scatterometer, which can measure wind speeds at the ocean surface, are being pushed to operational status. Meanwhile, the merger of existing data sources using computer-based schemes should increase the usefulness of all data sources, old and new. Much of this information is passed around the world, including the Philippines, on the global telecommunications system. organized by the World Meteorological Organization, but within constraints due to commercial, national security, and logistical considerations by some countries. Most of these efforts in the advancement of meteorology mostly have its goal in refining our forecasting techniques. Not just for the 7-day forecast that you see during the news, but also for things like where tornadoes might occur and other severe local weather phenomena so that we can better protect people and property. That is all for the history and development of meteorology. If you have other questions about meteorology, feel free to comment down below.